This is just an amazing thing.
Well, the results of the auction were certainly amazing. They showed once again that consumers want and need better wireless connectivity. So I think it's too early to say exactly what to make of the winning bidders, since what really matters is whether and how they put to use the spectrum licenses they've won.
Right, and it should be noted that Dish has a lot of spectrum they've won before and hasn't put to use. Ajit, when you look at their use of this loophole to qualify as a small business, partnering with some entities but owning 85% of those companies, could you have seen this coming?
I certainly didn't see it coming to this extent, and I don't think anybody else did either. And I think that's part of what's generating such outrage. It's an affront to the FCC's integrity. It's an affront to all these wireless entrepreneurs who, for whom these small business discounts were intended to go. And Dish claiming $3 billion worth of those discounts, I think, makes a mockery of the entire program.
Yeah, what was the purpose of that program? What was it intended to do?
Originally, Congress directed the FCC to set up a program to help small entrepreneurs get a foothold in the wireless industry and engage in what's called facilities-based competition, using spectrum that they get at auction, building out a network, and actually providing end-user service. But what's happened now is the FCC has loosened the rules over the years so much that we get a situation in which the big, sophisticated corporate interests can game the system and can use these shell corporations in order to get multi-billion-dollar discounts. And I think that's wrong, both as a commissioner and as a taxpayer.
Yeah, Todd, I think the notion was to help small businesses, to help competition, to help women and minorities. Dish is none of that.
Well, our policy should be facilitating market entry, and we're always glad to see new small businesses, new diverse and female-owned firms entering the market, because we really should be facilitating competition. And I'm glad to hear more about facilities-based competition. There's all sorts of steps the FCC could be taking to improve that, including by relaxing or preempting bad legislation in the states that preempts communities' ability to build their own broadband networks. The FCC could put a stop to the Comcast-Time Warner Cable merger. There's lots on the menu, as it were, for the Commission to do to really ensure that we have a marketplace full of options with lots of entrepreneurship.
Right, but all right, those issues and worthy ones to talk about aside, Todd, what is Common Cause's take on Dish's, using a small business loophole to win these auctions?
To be clear, we support allowing designated entities to enter the marketplace and receive bidding discounts. What really matters is, from our perspective, is on the back end. What's the clear timeline for them actually using these licenses and entering the market?
Yeah, I want to read from Ajit's letter that he wrote to the rest of the FCC, because I think it's really powerful. Ajit, you wrote, quote, "We must change course and soon by closing loopholes that allow big businesses to rip off the American people to the tune of billions of dollars. The American people should be outraged about this. I certainly am." You're a commissioner of the FCC, Ajit. What can you do about this now that the horse is already out of the barn door?
Well, I think it's incumbent on the FCC to do a full and thorough investigation into these particular applications. I think the very integrity of the designated entity program, as it's called, is at stake. And if it turns out that the scandal is what's legal under our rules, then I think it's incumbent upon the agency to reform the rules to close these loopholes. And I would note that I dissented last year from a number of different proposals to loosen the rules even further, and I predicted almost exactly this result, that corporate interests would find ways to arbitrage the system and game it at the expense of the American taxpayer. My only regret is that I turned out to be this right.
Well, I mean, so why do you think the other FCC commissioners went for this? I mean, they support some of those same goals. Is this about maximizing revenue and letting the biggest bidders win? The interests of competitive entrants, women and minorities be damned?
Well, I think you would have to speak to them, but I think by and large we all share the same goals of wanting to have a small business program that actually works. The question is, are you willing to take the efforts to reform the program to ensure that it's actually small businesses that benefit. And I think that's where we've seen a little bit of division. I hope that, if nothing else, this current episode with respect to the AWS-3 auction will inspire the FCC to take action to ensure that those who claim the bidding credits are the small entrepreneurs, are the women and minorities who historically have not had a chance to break into this marketplace. Those are the people we should be looking out for, not the Fortune 500 corporations that can go to Wall Street to raise capital for these auctions on their own.
Todd, if there's one rule change you think has to be made before the next auction, probably the biggest ever, what do you think it should be, Todd?
I think the best steps the FCC could take for the next auction are ensuring set-asides and reserve spectrum for the smaller competitors to ensure that we don't have yet another situation where all of this scarce public resource ends up concentrated in the hands of the big two, Verizon and AT&T. So let's make sure that they're going to smaller players, entrants, and upstarts.